Me and Matt are going to start with a short PowerPoint, um, going over some basic terms, and then from there we'll open it up to questions and um, show some videos of guys throwing in high speed. Sound good?
Yep.
All right. So let me share the screen. Okay. And present. Okay. All right. So some basic pitch design terms and things to go over. So first thing to go over is spin rate. Have you guys heard of spin rate? Carter, Asher, what's up?
So what do you mean?
Carter, what have you heard of spin rate before?
Yes.
What have you heard about spin
I've
rate?
heard about it.
Like there's different types of spin rates. The fastball just goes straight, and
Yep.
like curveballs spin to the side.
Yep. So with spin rate just the measure of how many revolutions per minute the ball takes. Okay, so that's what you see with Rapsodo. If you can see my cursor here, that's that total spin number is the spin rate. Okay. The next thing we'll go over is the spin direction. So Rapsodo uses a clock interface, so you can think about it like there are hours and hands on the clock. So when Rapsodo picks up the ball flight out of your hand, it's going to give a spin direction that matches what the machine's picking up. So for this is a fastball with a 1 o'clock or 106 spin direction. So the direction that it's spinning, if you were to compare that to like a clock, you would see it would be right around 1 o'clock. Okay. You guys with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So that is not to be confused with spin axis, which is what's perpendicular to the spin direction. So little geometry lesson. But your spin axis will be this way, and then direction will be just what's axis will be what the Rapsodo is picking up. The spin axis itself is what's perpendicular to that. Okay. So the next thing to look at is spin efficiency and gyro spin. So if we think about how the ball is going to leave the hand, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute. All right. So think about the ball as it's back spinning this way, right? We can see different spin directions that are going to impart different movement on the ball. However, if we start, that's only accounting for spin this way. What gyro spin does and spin efficiency, that measures this way, okay? So you're getting the degree that the ball is going both toward the target, basically, okay? And it's a little bit tougher to think of, but like if you think about pure gyro spin, that's going to look like this, okay? That's going to be like a spiral, like a football spiral, okay? Is that somewhat clear to you guys? Yeah?
Yeah.
And there we go. Where's my screen? Hold on. share my screen. Okay. And the last two general terms to go over are the horizontal and vertical movement. So those are the numbers that Rapsodo will tell you based on the amount of spin you put on a ball and the direction and the efficiency of it. Okay, so basically a fastball with like a 1 o'clock spin axis will have more vertical break than horizontal break. Now, something that is important to note when looking at like this Rapsodo chart here is that all of the movement numbers take out the effect of gravity. Okay, so you're looking at is while a fastball certainly sinks as it goes to home plate and the ball is thrown in a downward trajectory, the number that it calculates here is just the amount of like inches that it resists falling. Okay, so if you look at like a gyroscopic slide or something that would chart 0-0, that's going to spin just like a football or just like a rifle, like a bullet. Okay. You'll see like right-handed curveballs that'll plot in this area, sliders in this area, changeups over here. So that's not saying that the ball's actually rising, but it's just saying what you're doing to the ball based on the spin you're imparting on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes? Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Ow.
Okay, so next thing I'm going to go over is pitch types and some basic characteristics for a right-handed pitcher. What I'll actually do is I'm going to flip back and forth between here and here. So for a fastball, so this is a pretty typical four-seam fastball, okay? The general spin direction is going to be between 12:30 and like 1:30, 2 o'clock. Big factor on this is going to be your arm slot. So you'll see guys with like a higher slot, they'll throw a fastball with more vertical break and less horizontal, whereas a guy with a low 3/4 or sidearm slot will throw typically less vertical break, more horizontal. So that's where you're going to see direction around like 1:45, 2 o'clock. Those guys are going to have more run and sink, whereas guys with more vertical break are going to have more hop or ride or rise. Next thing to go over is changeup. So what we typically are looking for a good changeup is something along the axis that is about 30 to 60 minutes greater than your fastball. So what I mean by that is if you throw, let's go back to this example. If you throw a fastball at roughly 1 o'clock, you're going to want your changeup to deviate from that by preferably about 30 minutes. But the more you can get, generally speaking, the greater the difference will be based off of your fastball. The fastball is really the genesis for determining what the rest of your arsenal should look like for most guys. So basically getting something that is different than your fastball will likely be better. All right. So next thing we'll go over is curveball. There's some variety here, but those are usually going to plot. So with like a 6:30 to 8 o'clock spin axis or spin direction from a right-handed pitcher. And typically break is going to be in this area where my cursor is. So anywhere along this line where you have a negative vertical component and a negative horizontal component is going to be the makeup of your curveball. Now, this is also another thing that's pretty slot dependent. So you'll have guys that throw from a high slot. They have a fastball with maybe like a 1230 spin axis or spin direction, and that'll pair with their curveball, which will be more 12-6. Whereas if you have a guy who's more of a 145, 2 o'clock spin direction guy, his curveball might be more of a slurve or more sweepy because it's just difficult for guys with that arm slot to get really on top of it and get like a big 12-6. Oops. Saw chat. Let me see. Oh.
That was me. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Okay. Next, sliders. So sliders vary a lot, depending on how the pitcher throws it, the gyro component of it, or how efficient it is, and what some other factors. But basically, sliders are going to have like a 7:30 to 9 o'clock spin axis. A 9 o'clock spin axis would be a ball that would spin that has no backspin and no topspin. So it would plot right along this line. Okay. And then usually some deviation of some guys will throw more of a gyro slider. Okay. That'll plot over here. Other guys will throw more of a slurve that'll have both some glove side movement and some depth to it. Again, that's just dependent on the guy. And the last pitch we'll go over really quickly is a splitter. So for a righty, you're looking between 2 and 3. Really the objective with the split is to kill spin as much as possible, so that you get that big drop at the end, or that late life to it, or that late dive. So less concerned about the direction of a splitter, more concerned about the amount of spin and then your ability to command it. Okay, so those are the basic pitch shapes, basic pitch shapes, how they'll move, and then what we're roughly looking for each. Anyone have any questions on that before we move into Matt's going to cover some curveball grips? Have any questions on what we just went over?
No.
No, I don't got it.
All right, cool. Matt, you want to tackle pitch grips?
Yeah. So, I mean, the biggest thing to know, I know a lot of guys have asked about different grips and what grip might work best, especially for a curveball. It's going to be a means to an end for you guys. So it's whatever's really comfortable, as long as, like George said, with a curveball, you want to create topspin. All right. So however you can do that, I mean, there's 3 examples there. Barry Zito on the left, big loopy curveball. He has a pretty traditional grip. AJ Burnett is a guy that went spike. He had curveballs okay, but and then you have someone like Josh Tolles, where he kind of might have played around with different grips, but he found something that's different, and he kind of holds it here and almost palms it with those fingers to create topspin. So whatever works for you is going to be the biggest thing when it comes to curveball grips. I did in the chat, I dropped the drop box in there. Everyone's heard of Pitching Ninja. He created a drop box of like a lot of MLB guys' grips, whether it's curveball, cutter. I think it's broken up by sinker and 2-seam, curveball, slider, knuckleball, splitters, even screwball. So go in there, look around if you're looking for different grips. Really, when it comes to whatever grip you're looking for, you want to be able to make sure that you can get that middle finger over the top of that ball to create that topspin that you want. did anyone have questions about like grips, like whether it's like the grip that you have or grips that you've been trying? No? Or any, or even if it's not a curveball, just change up. I mean, it's the same thing with change ups, sinkers, cutters. I mean, you're looking for whatever's comfortable with you to create that spin. There's no set way to throw one pitch. Did anyone have questions about any grips they had, or if they were looking for a new grip?
I can't seem to find something that works for my slider.
Okay.
How are you holding it? Do you have a ball with you?
Yeah, I have a ball.
How are you holding it?
Oh, I have this seam, and I bring my finger up to the side of it, and then I basically just pinch it and push it up with my thumb. But I was watching video from throwing today, and I think I've came up like when it's bad, I'm releasing it like pushing off the end of my finger, but I gotta let it like come around.
Your pointer
And no.
or your
So it would fly out like that,
okay.
and not come out like that.
Okay. Yeah. Just a side note, something that we've picked up, I guess, over the winter is generally if guys are having trouble getting a lot of action on, whether it's a slider or a curveball, a lot of guys go to the spike. What you've seen on camera is sometimes this pointer finger, if it's last to leave the ball, it will throw off the direction a little bit, and that'll have major impacts on how the ball spins. So a lot of guys are able to get that out of the way with either the modified spike or the complete knuckle grip here, as a means to do that. Gav, with you, it'd be interesting. We just have to get it on camera. This is where like having the high speed camera is so valuable, because we can just see exactly what the hand is doing at release. And you can't get that with like an older iPhone as clearly. So
It has like the iPhone 11. It works pretty good.
yeah, the video you sent me was pretty good. So
Yeah.
as cameras get better and better in phones, you'll start to see like it'll be easier to diagnose things really on the fly.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions or stuff you've worked on? Thoughts? I guess I would say this, especially for the younger guys. A common question that we get is, hey, how do I grip a curveball? How do I throw a slider? How do I grip a changeup? And there isn't one answer for that. There's a lot of different ways to grip a ball. The ball just has to move in a certain way. So you want to get the right spin on the ball. How you do that is totally up to you. Find something that works, experiment, talk to other teammates, and just keep throwing it. But there is no like, this is how you hold a curveball or this is how you hold a slider. That doesn't exist. It's just what you need to do to get the ball to move a certain way. Okay? Cool. All right. Then what I'll do, I pulled up a bunch of YouTube videos of some of the guys that train at MSI. So let me share my screen. We'll go here. Dude. Okay. So here's Jimmy Yacobonis. He's with the Padres. So just see his two-seamer. He's gonna throw another two-seam. You really see how the ball, he has like pretty close to 100% spin efficiency, or he's like very behind the ball. So you're able to see how he keeps his fingers back behind it the whole way through. Okay. And then able to get some good arm side run, as you'll see as the ball, follow it all the way through. Okay. Here's his changeup. So again, if we're looking at like comparing his fastball release, see how that fastball comes out? He's very behind it. Okay. As he gets to his changeup, you're going to see a lot more side spin to it. So if we just go here, see how as that ball comes out, a lot more side spin compared to the fastball. Now, if he was a higher slot guy, we wouldn't expect him to throw a changeup with like a 245 spin axis, but as a lower three-quarter slot guy, you can start to you could get there. This is his slider. So he gets, see how he gets, so he went with the spike grip. Okay, so you could see how his pointer finger is a little bit higher up. And that allows him to really just use that middle finger to generate all the spin. And you'll see a lot of that side spin component and that like downward sweepy slider. And yes, that is O'Keefe catching. O'Keefe catches lots and lots of bullpens all winter, and we were very grateful for him.
Yeah.
And Carter,
That seems like it's on the red.
as you get older, there's something that's very important that you need to know, and that's that pitchers, they need you way more than you need them.
Yes.
They're going to need you to catch them, and if pitchers are mistreating their catchers, that is grounds for you to just not catch their bullpens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And pitchers, always take care of your catchers. Always, always, always. Okay, next we'll go Salucci. Just gonna take a look. All right. Curveball, two-seam changeup, curveball, two-seam, two-seam. Okay. So Salucci throws one of the better curveballs that we see. It's so left-handed. It's got like a 530, 515 spin direction with a high amount of spin efficiency. So it's a hammer, basically.
Do you know the grip for what his curveball is?
I'm actually pulling that up right now.
That's the man.
He has a very interesting grip. Let me see here.
See at release, like how his thumb is almost like up. It's like high. It's pretty high on the ball. And he's again like that middle finger. We don't have the angle from the front or the side, but I'd imagine that middle finger is doing a lot of action to really pull that ball down. Matt, when you have his,
I have it pulled up, but I'm not able to screen share. So
I'll stop sharing.
No, it says host disabled screen sharing.
Let's see if I can enable it.
If not, I can try and text it to you.
And we'll take a look at. So this is his two-seam fastball.
Let me know if you got that.
Two-seam. Go to some overlays. I can have an overlay at the end. Yeah, I got it, Matt. So we're gonna see the trajectory of these balls. So this one's way higher, way higher, way higher, and they end in the same spot. Here's Tanner. Tanner's fastball. Oh, let me pull up. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna stop sharing. So, and Salucci throws nasty stuff, basically, in case you guys were wondering. Let me open messages. Let me see if I can get that. Okay.
So that's going to be a tougher grip for you guys with smaller hands, just because he kind of, if you can see, he kind of splits his fingers like almost like a Vulcan change and then spikes from
Yes.
there.
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
So, yeah. So he's kind of like right here with it. So if you can see, he's got his index or his middle finger out. That index finger is either spiked or knuckled, and then he almost splits that middle and ring finger there on those seams. All right. So guys with smaller hands, that's going to be a tough grip for you to get from seam to seam. Even for someone like me who has bigger hands, it's hard to get all the way from seam to seam. But he does a really good job of creating top spin. I think his curveball's around 70% spin efficiency. So 70% of that's probably top spin that he's using. And that's because he's able to get that middle finger over and that index finger stays out of the way. Any questions about that? Like how he's gripping that?
Yeah. And before we keep going, any other more general questions, like regarding this pitch design and arsenal, that type of thing? Okay, let's keep rolling. Next, back screen share. Okay. Tanner Scott, lefty with the Orioles. So he throws here's his fastball. Pretty standard, unless you consider, except that it's 100. His slider, though, so his slider's way more gyroscopic than if you looked at Yak's slider 2 pitches ago, how he gets really around it. Okay. Tanner stays more behind it. There's a lot less sweep to it.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is he playing MLB? Or is
Yeah. He was up with the O's last year. And we'll see about this year. So you see how he's more behind it here. Like as that ball comes out of his hand, you could still see that he kind of stays behind it with that pointer and that middle finger. And they're both going to kind of leave the baseball almost at the same time. Back, 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 back. Okay.
Is that a slider or a cutter?
It's a gyroscopic slider.
So it just moves.
Literally
just slides.
So it's not a big sweepy slider. Not at all.
Does he throw it freakishly hard or?
Yes. I'm not entirely sure what his in-game velo was, but it's probably upper 8s and low 90s. I forget offhand. You'll see that like guys that throw a more gyroscopic slider, or one that has less overall movement, is going to be, you can throw that a little bit harder. Where guys will get lost is where they throw a slider that doesn't have a lot of depth or a lot of movement, but also is slow. So if you can throw it hard, think about like a Tanner slider or like a Syndergaard slider, where some describe it like almost like a cutter. Take a look. Dobbs throws some splits. Also, all these are available on my YouTube channel, and I know Matt has a bunch on his YouTube channel too. So Dobbs's fastball has like very slight cut to it. That spin efficiency number, we normally, for most fastballs, we're looking for that thing to be around 95% to 100. His would be between like 85 and like 90. This one he didn't cut much, but you could see how his fingers are a little bit more on the side of the ball as it releases. We didn't really try to change that with him at all this offseason because he has a freakishly long middle finger. Like we were like his middle finger, it's almost like a whole knuckle longer than his pointer finger. If you could think about like the end of your digits there. So we were just like, yeah, this plays and we're going to roll with it. But Dobbs does throw pretty nasty split. So you see that big wide grip. And that thing spins far less than his fastball. He also throws a big hammer curveball. That's his slider. So his slider's also more of a smaller breaking pitch. It doesn't do a whole lot, but that's what he wants. And that's what plays best with like the rest of his pitches. And here's his hammer curveball. So spike grip. Okay. And that middle finger is going to be pulling down on that ball. And his pointer finger, because it's spiked, can't really affect ball flight at the end. Okay. This is a fastball and curveball overlay. Um, and fastball slider.
I have another question.
Shoot.
Yeah. Does anyone at MSI throw like a knuckleball?
Tommy Goldberg does. Matt, do you have footage of Goldberg?
Let me see if I can pull one up. I don't know if I have one on
I
hand.
can, but I'm not very good at doesn't know.
I throw a good knuckleball.
Oh yeah, George does throw a good
I throw a good knuckleball.
Yeah, he does.
with high school balls.
Yeah, high school balls are great. I had it the one day with the MLB balls.
Well, because you can't dig into that seam as much. You need big nails.
Yeah. So you younger guys, like the seams on like this is an MSI ball. Okay. It's pretty similar to like your little league balls and your high school balls. The seams on these are pretty high. As you move up in baseball, the seams get a lot lower and the ball gets like wound a little tighter. But the big difference in like seam height plays a pretty big factor in just your ability to like grip pitches and create movement. Yeah, knuckleballs, you're, Jack, to expand on that, you're looking to just throw it with as little spin as possible. So something under, 100 or 200 RPMs is going to be the move with that.
Is it like hard to throw it if you have like small hands and you don't get the right grip?
I don't have particularly big hands. How I hold mine, I use all three fingers, and I put my thumb on the side of it here. And then what I've had to think about changes and has changed many times over the years. But what lately I usually go to is like I have to stay loose with my arm and then just like stiff with my wrist. And I also, when I release it like similar to like a gyroscopic slider where everything comes through this way. As opposed to like a fastball, I'd be behind it. This, with the knuckleball, I'm more here.
Okay.
Yeah. But yes, knuckleballs, I would say, are pretty hard to throw. It takes a lot of reps. And you just got to throw it a lot. Throw it when you play catch, if you want to throw it.
Yeah, I'll try.
So yeah, we're about 40 minutes now, guys. Are there any other closing questions? Anything else? All right. Well, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out, text, DM, whatever. And on Thursday, we are doing we're going over, me and Matt are going over like how to attack hitters from a pitcher's point of view. Okay?
Yep.
All right. Great. Thanks, guys. We'll see you on Thursday.
See ya.
Say it.
Yeah.
You guys.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.